Welcome, welcome. We're going live. We're recording. Hey Danielle, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. Awesome. So good to have you. I'm super excited. And I want to make sure that this is going live to our Facebook group. So I'm going to take just a minute to do that. But while I do that, I just want to give a
Mhm.
little bit of background for, oh, here we go. Let's see, here it is. Oh, okay. I've got the window open. That's excellent. I can see it. So good. And Danielle's got a really awesome experience that I just cannot wait to share because Danielle joined the Joy of Cooney Academy a couple months back, right? A couple months back. I don't remember the
I
exact
think it
date.
was September of last year.
Awesome. So
Mhm.
good. Learned so much. Oh my goodness, right? Learned so much. And then, so you walk us through, you were a teacher, right? You were a teacher?
Yeah, so for my whole career, I think it was about 18 years, sometime taken off for when I had my kids, but I was a teacher of some kind. My undergrad's in music education and my graduate degrees in early childhood development. And most of the time I spent teaching kindergarten.
Mhm.
I also got my Waldorf certification and taught in Waldorf schools because my own kids go to a Waldorf school. So I was working at their school for a while. And in 2022, I decided I was kind of tired. We had gone through the whole pandemic and teaching young children, especially just with the mask thing, was so hard because 5-year-olds
Yeah.
don't have anything on their face. And then we had half the parents wanted the masks, half of them didn't. And it was just like chaos, just like it was everywhere. But I was just kind of tired and ready to do something different. So I decided my final year would be the June of 2022. I would be finished, and I decided I wanted to try out some coding. So I actually did a different boot camp first, and I learned a lot there. It was mainly JavaScript. There was a little bit of Python, but mostly JavaScript. So when I finished that boot camp, I started applying to jobs. I was not hearing anything back. Like I was getting not even like, oh, we got your like maybe an automated message saying they got my resume, but I wasn't even getting rejection letters. So that was frustrating. And I knew I needed a little
Yeah.
bit more experience because just having this one boot camp was not going to be enough. So I came across Dr. Emily, I think on Facebook, and I, had been reading through the Facebook page and everything. And I heard about the internship that was part of the program. And I thought, well, that's
Mhm.
exactly what I need because I have zero experience. I can code a bit. And my previous boot camp, while it was awesome, only really barely touched the surface with Python. So I was interested in learning a bit more about that, particularly because it's used in data visualization a lot. So I was sort of trying to decide what direction I was going to go in technology. So, I decided to sign up and went through the whole academy stuff and all those assignments and everything like that. And it was what I found that was really different about Joy of
Mhm.
Coding versus my other experience was that there were people I could ask pretty much at any time of day. Like I could go on Discord and just like hop in a room if I had a question. And I mean, even like the interns who had been there a while were so helpful, in terms of helping me with the projects. And I really felt like I was progressing faster just because I was able to reach out for help when I needed it. And everyone was just so nice and welcoming and everything like that. And then when I finished the academy and did the onboarding for the internship, that was a lot because I had spent a couple of weeks learning or doing Python and all that, and then there was like, oh, JavaScript. Now I had experience with JavaScript, so that was fortunate, and I did move through it a little faster than someone who maybe didn't have experience with JavaScript, but it was like totally different kinds of projects that I was
Yeah.
working on. I wasn't just designing little like static web pages. There were games, there were all kinds of other, really cool things that we were doing. So also that onboarding process I thought was awesome because we got to use Trello and we got to, um, you know, it was my first experience with the ticketing system and things like that. So that was really, really great. And then when I moved into the internship, I was put on Famigo with David Bobe, who, oh my
Mhm.
God, love him. He was so so helpful, so encouraging, always willing to help. And yeah, I had a great experience. It was kind of a short experience, honestly, because once I started interviewing, or I started putting out my resume with the internship on it, all of a sudden I was getting more like traction or more interest, because it's like, okay, I have at least a little bit of
Right.
experience, and like, whereas like, I think a lot of the algorithms for these companies, if they don't see at least something like that, it just like puts you in the pile that's like, okay, we're not even gonna talk to this person. And just having that on my resume just sort of took me on to the next level, and I was starting to get interviews that way.
I
So yeah.
love it. Oh my goodness, Danielle, thank you so much for sharing. And what an amazing story, right? Of perseverance, of not letting the challenges you were facing, right, get you down and keeping going, keeping moving forward. And I just love that, because you were in a really unique position where you had gone to another boot camp, you had learned, you had the skills that they had recommended, and weren't having success on the job market. Because to be honest, nobody wants to train entry-level devs. Like, nobody wants to train us. And so, the only solution is to get some kind of experience. But if you can't get your foot in the door, how do you get experience, right? Because I think the tech industry is aware of just how much time and effort and energy it takes to train tech workers, to get them ready. And so I think that is absolutely wonderful and amazing that you recognize that gap, and you made a choice of action. You took action, you did it, you invested in yourself. And then here you are today, right? I'm just amazed that you really saw a huge difference. Can you help us see that at all? Like the difference between, like, did you get any interviews before versus like, or the rate of interviews? Like, was there a difference? Like, how did you know there was an impact with having that experience, like based on the responses you were seeing?
Well, I had gotten a few like little
Good.
bites where they'd send me like this screening project. And
Mhm.
like, honestly, and this is before I started the joy of
Right.
coding. It would be the kind of thing where I like kind of know what I'm supposed to do, but I either wouldn't finish on time, or it just wouldn't be quite at the level that people were looking for.
Mhm.
But the main difference I noticed is when I started putting my resume out there with the internship on it, a lot of recruiters started
Oh,
contacting me
interesting.
through LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So I got most of my interviews through the recruiters. I mean, some actually, it's funny, the job I ended up taking was not through a recruiter, but anyway, a lot of the interviews that I got were through recruiters, because like they would go through my LinkedIn profile and be like,
Yeah.
hey, she has done an internship and she's worked with JavaScript or whatever. So,
Right.
but the thing I've noticed with the recruiters on LinkedIn, it's like that, like they message like 100 people,
Oh yeah.
and maybe the first five that get back to them, they're like, they'll call and talk to, and if you don't respond right away, it's just gone. So
Right.
so
Yeah, they're
that was
going through.
yeah.
Yeah, they're going through a lot of resumes in the pile, a lot of resumes.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So thank you so much for sharing. And in fact, we actually have a recruiter on staff who does, Miles does our resume reviews for students who are on the job market. And so he brings all that experience, that knowledge. We don't have to wait for him to contact you, because at the end of the day, there are really good recruiters out there like Miles who like invest in you and are trying to help you see what's best for you. But there's also a lot of recruiters where resumes are basically like things to be traded. And they don't really care about helping you. They just care about getting the next position, because they get paid when people get placed, but they don't actually care about any of the individuals. And that's where I think we do something a little bit different, because we try to work with each student to find their dream career. And actually, Danielle, your career path is a little bit different from perhaps what you had prepared for, but there's nothing wrong with that. We know and acknowledge that the technical training that we offer can allow students to unlock jobs in many different tech areas. And so I think it's really cool that you didn't end up doing the full stack route, because that's going to be the most hardest, most time intensive, right? Becoming that full stack software engineer, it is not for the faint of heart. But the cool thing
No.
is that at any point you can kind of go sideways and have an amazing career that you love and enjoy, and it just kind of unlocks the doors for you. So Danielle, I think you're kind of in that boat a little bit. And I want to talk more about that, although I do see a question from the group. So hold on one second. So Crystal is asking, what questions do they ask and what did they want to see as far as the work that you've done? So would that be, I think, maybe on the interview? Do you think you could speak to that at all, Danielle, about your interview process of what they're looking for?
So most of the questions I got at the beginning were about my why. Like, why are you doing this? What made you, because it's kind of, I mean, actually, I've seen quite a few teachers making this transition, but it's kind of a weird thing, like kindergarten to coding and tech, what I said was that I've always been interested in doing puzzles and problem solving. And the other main types of questions that I got was what skills can you transfer from teaching to tech? And my normal response to that would be, when you're working with young children, you're always breaking down complex concepts into the, very digestible small parts, which is exactly what you're doing whenever you're working on, any sort of software project. You have the big picture and the like architecture set up, and then you have to break it down into, epics and user stories and stuff like that. So those were the two main questions I got. And then when maybe a little bit later, Dr. Emily will have me talk a bit more about the position that I got, because honestly, in my interviews, I did not get past that except for with this job. So it only takes one, you only need one, one place to, I mean, some people have multiple, and that's awesome. If you say get into the third round or something and, you don't get it, that's experience that you learn from for your next one. But for me, it was really like, I wasn't having success. I was getting to the first, maybe the second round where you have like a screening project, but it was this one that I got. It was the first one I had made to that third round. So
I love it. And you nailed it. So great job. That's awesome, Danielle. Cool. I love it. I love it. And yeah, keep it up, guys. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to post them in the chat. We're live. I'd love to answer them. And so Danielle, that brings up a really good point of, just how much preparation goes into it. And that process of, going through the interview process, moving forward. Now, we advocate in the Joy of Coding Academy, we advocate for skills, confidence, and experience. And then for the job hunt specifically, we talk about connections. Now, I can't remember, did you have some kind of a connection to this experience? Does that kind of help get you through the rounds?
Yes and no. So it's funny that I have and this is not a connection I made on LinkedIn. This is like through my personal life. It's actually really funny. My ex-husband's new wife, a friend of hers, worked there. And she and I get along really well. She's the stepmom to my kids, and she's awesome, and we really get along. But, when she heard that I was embarking on this career change, she's like, oh, I know this one person who's a software developer somewhere. Maybe you could talk to him. And I talked to him like before I even did the Joy of Coding a couple times. And he was a back-end engineer at the company that I work at. And we talked and we met, and there wasn't a whole lot like that happened at that point. And then when I started interviewing and I found this particular job on LinkedIn, and it was at his company, then I went back to him and I said, hey, I just saw this opportunity. Do you know anything about it? And at that time he didn't, but he was like, who are you interviewing with? And he was able to find that person. I mean, she actually worked on the same floor as him, so it was not that far out. But I think that really helped.
Wow.
So any random connection that you have might actually be what helps you. I mean, it could have been someone I met on LinkedIn and talked to or whatever, but in this particular instance, I mean, I was connected with him on LinkedIn, but I had met him in real life. So
right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Danielle. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just love that, where do we come up with the skills, confidence, experience, and connection, right? Like how important this is. Well, it's from stories like yours, which you basically showcased it. You basically found that, you did a boot camp, so you had some skills, but until you paired it with the experience you got inside the academy, you weren't really getting interviews. And then to get past the interview phase, you added a connection in the mix, and it only took one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It only took the one, which I just think is so cool, because I mean, that's why we talk about it. Like, because we just see it every day that it's people who hire people. Right. And if you think about it, all the thousands of resumes a hiring manager might get, and everyone who can Google says they know JavaScript, but can they actually build something? Right. So that's where you need the experience, but you need the connection to vouch for you to be like, yes, she's being truthful. She actually knows what she's talking about. Right. And so when you have that kind of connection, that trustworthiness, and it like, okay, Danielle's gonna be awesome to work with. She's not gonna be a burden on the team. She's not gonna be a squeaky wheel that like keeps things from like, it is so challenging to find good people that are a good cultural fit. When you have that recommendation, it just fast tracked you. Right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Oh, I can't wait, Danielle. Okay. So now we're getting to the real meat of it, right? So if you have any other questions, guys, on the job hunt, just let us know. But Danielle had a really cool pathway because Danielle did all the JavaScript, all the full stack, learning experiences. But then in terms of getting a job opportunity, I think you were applying for like developer positions, but then they offered you something different, but still remote and in tech. So can you kind of walk us through like how that transpired?
Yeah, sure. So the company that I work for they have a diversity initiative. And in particular, the position I applied for was neurodiversity associate developer apprentice.
Nice.
Neurodiversity associate developer apprentice. So that's a mouthful. But what I interpreted it as was making or building software to be accessible for the neurodiverse communities. Well, that's not actually what it was. It was an in for the neurodivergent tech workers or talent. It's a back way in. So I told them throughout the interview process that, I said, I am mostly neurotypical. I mean, what is neurotypical, right? I mean, we all have stuff that's challenging to us. But my background in teaching, I worked with a lot of neurodiverse students and other teachers and stuff. And I said, I really feel like I have a lot of experience communicating with neurodiverse people. So I feel comfortable in that space. So they decided that that was pretty much maybe enough to check the box or whatever. But what happened was I was invited to a week-long boot camp, which was really more of a week-long interview process. And they took 10 of us, some of us were, I think some of them may have been neurotypical. I'm really not sure. We didn't go through and say, hey, what got you in here? It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But there's a group of 10 of us, and we spent a week learning a bit about the company. And they put us in pairs, like right around, it was Monday through Friday. And on Wednesday, they put us in pairs and gave us a project to complete. And, we worked together for the Wednesday, Thursday, and then we presented the project on Friday with our partners. And they gave offers to 5 of the 10 of us. So even though I applied for the associate developer position, there were other positions as well. There were 2 associate developer positions, one architecture position, like software architecture, one IT, kind of like a troubleshooting position, and then one project management position. Mm-hmm. So when we did the whole presentation, I think that my communication kind of stood out a bit just because I had been teaching. So I was very comfortable like presenting stuff because that was what I did for so long.
Yeah.
And when the next week, when they were calling us back, I was offered the project management position, which was not what I was looking for. However, when I learned more about it, I found that everything that I had been learning about tech was relevant because basically the company I work for, I think I can say it, it's Empower Financial. Mm-hmm. So it's a big, big company that does retirement accounts. So they have all of these huge platforms and the code base is like enormous and they keep acquiring other companies. And as they acquire other companies, they have to merge the different platforms in with their own. So there are a lot of moving parts. And so the group that I work with basically takes different pieces of other companies that they've merged with and have tried to integrate it into their platform. So I'm learning so much. I've like been in meetings with some of the architects. I've worked with a lot of the more senior project managers to learn about the different processes and keeping track of the different epics and stories for each project. And there's lots of projects going on at one time. So it's a lot to keep track of, but it's fascinating. And I had never had any idea how a big company like this would make things happen when there's so many moving parts. So yeah.
That's awesome. And now you get to be like part of the conducting team that's helping those moving parts move together, right? That's awesome. Oh my goodness. So cool, Danielle. So that's so interesting because you didn't even apply thinking for project manager, but then they
Right.
identified that that was a talent of yours and then kind of said, well, here, what about this? And so
Mhm.
even though it wasn't, what you had intended, it also it's an apprenticeship position versus like a fuller position. But I think, am I correct? Did it still compensate better than your teaching
Oh yeah.
position?
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I was teaching kindergarten, so it was from a pretty low, low salary to begin with, but it's like $18,000 more a year,
Wow.
honestly. And
To be an
the
apprentice and not even a full project manager
yeah,
yet.
yeah. So the apprenticeship goes, so I started 2 weeks ago and it goes through the end of the summer. And then at the end of the summer, we talk with the different managers about like, if they feel like I'll continue on. And I hope so. I'm trying to be as
Yeah.
useful and, productive as I can. And, so hopefully, but if not, I think that this experience will definitely, help for me to find whatever happens afterwards.
Exactly, right? Because this is how we level up. So you start off learning, right? And then we have to kind of have to pay to learn and invest in ourselves. But now you've got this opportunity to get paid to learn, right? Like now you get to flip it, which is amazing. You have to just hit that tipping point where a company wants to take a chance that you have enough of the experience to like, okay, we'll finish you the rest of the way for us. Right. So here's your chance. Here's your break. Oh, I love that. What a cool way in. And then of course you're going to be a top candidate because now you've got all these connections within the company. Right.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome. And how are you enjoying it so far? I mean, I know it's a far cry from teaching, but it's remote. Like, can you walk us through what a typical day is like so far? Like, what this life is like for you now?
Sure. So this it's hybrid. So what basically I work 2 days from home and 3 days in the office. Although that seems to be, as I get to know the team, a bit more fluid. But right now I'm just, that it's been 2 weeks. So, but anyway, yeah, basically there's a team of 12 people and we're all connected on Microsoft Teams. And the first week I spent scheduling meetings with each person on the team and saying, hey, here I am. Here are my skills. Here's what I'd like to learn. Is there anything I can do to help? And
Right.
they've given me all kinds of different stuff. Like some of it, like one person is having me do some research for a presentation that he's going to be giving in on-site in internal on-site training. So that's really cool because I'm learning all about different parts of project management and communication and stuff like that. Someone else is having me regularly update one of the scorecard spreadsheets for all the different projects. So that's a weekly thing that I do every week. I've only
Nice.
done it once, but you know. And I've done some other things that are just more administrative, but even with the administrative stuff, there's so many processes that happen behind the scenes. So it's
Mhm.
really helping me to learn those processes, even if it's just like, taking one spreadsheet and merging it into another or something like that. So far this week, that's what I've been working on, those projects. And now I just sort of, whatever, I reach out to people and I say, hey, I've got this time, is there anything I can help with? And yeah,
That's awesome.
that's
That's
what I'm doing.
amazing. So would you say, I mean, now that you're in your second week, you're kind of settling in. Would you say that a lot of your time is spent in meetings or mostly you get, solo work time to like do what you need to do?
No, well, there's a lot of meetings because it's, in project management, it's all these moving parts like
True.
we're talking about. So
Yeah.
it's coordinating things. So I find that I'm being invited to a lot of meetings right now that I'm just listening in. And then
Okay.
as I listen and I get other work from people, it's like everything's fuzzy. And then each day it kind of becomes more and more clear and comes into focus. But yeah,
Mhm.
I would say maybe half of my day is spent on calls or in meetings, and the other half is spent, working on little projects that different people give me.
Cool. Awesome. That's amazing. It sounds like you're making a great impression that you're doing all the right things. I have no doubt that you're going to really, shine. And if it's not with them, you're going to have this killer experience on your resume that you got paid to get, right?
Mhm.
And potentially
Yeah.
you can take elsewhere too, which is just wonderful. It's awesome. Amazing, Danielle. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, do you have any other, advice for, someone just starting out? Like, let's say there's like a teacher or someone who's in a career that's not their dream career. Do you have any advice for them in, making this transition and making it happen for themselves?
Yeah, well, I would say definitely as soon as possible, even if you're just in the like thinking, like considering it, just get on LinkedIn and start connecting with people and just send out those connection requests. I know it's like super scary, you know, when you're reaching out to someone who's a complete stranger, but you know, what I would usually say when I'm reaching out to a complete stranger is, hey, I looked at your profile. I'm considering making the switch from teaching into tech, and I see you've had a lot of career success in this area. I'd love to talk to you sometime. And sometimes they would ignore it. A lot of times they would accept my connection request, but not talk to me. And sometimes we would set up a call for like 10 or 15 minutes, and you know, just keeping it really short and asking like just very like general questions about their journey, you know, and making it about them is how I got the connections. And now, like, it's funny, even the more connections you get on LinkedIn, like the faster and more people will request to connect with you. It's crazy. I remember I hit 500 connections and I thought, whoa, that's so many. And then all of a sudden it's like, now I've got like 2,000, and I'm like, I don't know who these people are, but they're all in tech and they're all somehow related to one another. And, you know, so it's easy. The more
awesome.
people that you're connected with, the easier it is to connect with the people that you really want to talk to. So
Yes.
I would say start early, get as many as you can. Doesn't matter really who it is, as long as they're in the tech space, you know, and it will help.
That's awesome. I love that advice, Danielle. So, so good about connections and starting early. And really, you know, part of the secret, I mean, we share this. If everyone needs we have a 6-figure coding career blueprint. We're happy to share it with anyone. But one of the things that we advise, you know, for any of our students, you know, going on the job market is building those connections, and how, you know, it's just so important to grow them and nurture them, and making it about the other person. And here's the true win, is that everyone has a slightly different story and target career goal that they want, right? Like, you know, Danielle, your career might look a little different from like Arthur or from someone else. And you actually can find out what your custom career path looks like just by asking. And so these connections you're talking about, these little 15-minute conversations, you can build a rapport, build a connection, you know, make it about them, like you said, Danielle, which is just so brilliant. But then also at the end, like, oh man, it must be so great working at company, whatever you work for. How would you recommend, you know, someone just getting start out like me might begin that path? What would you recommend? And they will literally tell you what the steps are to go get your dream job, right? It's amazing. So it sounds like, Danielle, you were doing some of that too a little bit.
Yeah. And one thing I do want to say is, like, having gone through the internship, there are so many really smart people in the internship right now who are still looking for jobs. And I feel a little bit like, how is it that I found a job and some of these other people haven't? So I think it's really just, you got to just keep going, you know, because, you know, it's rough out there right now. It really is. I think there's been so much change in terms of how people even apply to jobs, you know, now with, you know, everything, AI and everything like that, that like companies just have so many applications coming in. I just like, you know, honestly, I really got discouraged for quite a while, and
Yeah.
got to keep going and
Keep going.
talking to people.
I love that. Yeah, keep talking, keep connecting. And in fact, we actually had 7 Joy of Coding Academy interns get job offers in the last month. So even though it's a
That's
tough
awesome.
market, it's been really, really moving. And sometimes there's 2 things. Remember, there's skills, confidence, and experience and connection. So you have to actually have all 4 of those things. And so what can sometimes happen is I've seen brilliant people not have enough confidence. So they might get the interview, but then not nail it. They might not be willing to make connections, or they might be like holding out for their offer. Like, no, I'm like, for instance, Doris was one of our, she's our top earner. She got 150K job offer straight out of the academy. But she was already at 120, like she was at like 100 before when she came in, like with her other day job. And so she's like, I'm not taking a dime under 125. So it didn't matter how long it took. She wasn't leaving until she had what she was after. And so we don't actually prescribe, like there's no set salary that you have to say like, okay, I'm only going to wait for an offer that's 70K or 100K or this or that. So every student is a little bit different. And the reason we allow this is because it's a dial you can turn. Like Danielle is like, well, I want the fastest path. And I'm cool with project manager. This sounds great. This sounds super fun. Great. I get paid. I'm not necessarily a full developer yet, but I'm getting paid more than I earned before. Wonderful. And I get experience. So like you saw the opportunity and it worked for you. And some students are like that, right? I've had students get job offers in the first 2 weeks. It might not have been for a full stack developer that they set out to be. It might have been a low code job in IT, but like, so everybody gets to choose their path a little bit. There's not one size fits all path. And that's the cool thing is about the academy is we focus on the result of getting that first tech career versus, okay, you have to do it this way. Like we just give you these options and opportunities. But oh my goodness, so good, Danielle. And we did have one more question from the group as well. Crystal was asking, you know, in terms of like a remote job, it's hybrid, you know, when you are working remotely, do you have to be logged into your computer for set times or you just log in when you need to, like when you have a meeting? Like, do they track your remote hours?
You know, so they have me track my hours.
Yeah.
So, what I do is I try to be online for at least 40 hours. They don't seem to mind what 40 hours they are, but if there's a meeting scheduled, obviously I have to be there at that time, you know. But I think it really varies from different companies. Like I said, this particular company has me doing the tracking, but I think there are others that do track, you know, when you're logged in and when you're not, when you're, you know, snoozed or whatever the yellow one is on on the Teams, whatever, you know.
Right. I love it. So good. Thank you so much, Danielle. And again, folks, if anyone's watching live at home, last call for questions. We'll see if we can get any in. And Danielle's in the group as well. If there's a question that you have after the live you want to ask, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer. I just want to let you guys know, you know, thank you again, Danielle, so much. Like it's just so amazing to hear your story. Thank you so much for sharing it and just the result that you had, right? Like just might not have been the result you were seeking, but it turned out to be like the perfect vehicle for you, which I just love. And so if there's anyone watching that's thinking about learning to code, that's thinking to how to break into your tech career, I'm going to post a link in the comments in the chat because tomorrow, Saturday, I'm hosting a live training day. I've never hosted it publicly before. So if you want to fast track your career and learn the fundamentals of coding in Python in an afternoon, I'm going live all afternoon, like 12:30 to 5:30. Like it's a full day workshop. Join us. You just have to put in your information on the link I shared so that you can get the Zoom link to join us. And we're doing everything we can to help make pathways, you know, like Danielle's as accessible as possible so more people can make that transition. Awesome, Danielle. Anything else you'd like to share today?
Just, I want to say thank you for putting together this program because, you know, I really feel like I wouldn't be where I'm at without it. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle. It is for stories like you. It's why we do it, right? It's to help, you know, make that transition so you can have that dream career and life that you're looking for. Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you, everybody. And we'll talk soon. And I hope to see some of you tomorrow. All right. Take care. Bye.